So I'm Wilt Chamberlain's biggest hater, and yeah, that's why today we are reacting to a video called Making the Case for Wilt Chamberlain by a YouTuber named Clayton Crowley. And I haven't seen this video yet, but I'm excited to break it down. Hey Clayton, bring it on.
Basketball is special. The size of the court and the lack of pads or helmets give fans the most intimate experience of a team sport that exists. And because of the different styles that basketball allows for, players develop their own distinct identities and signature styles through their creativity. And although no player succeeds alone, the scoring volume and two-way nature of the sport give individual stars a nearly unprecedented amount of control over the flow and outcome of a game. For this reason, players are constantly compared to their peers and to the legends of the past in order to answer the most hotly contested question in the sport. Who's the greatest to ever do it? For many, the question is redundant. They believe in only one right answer. Their answer.
Yeah, LeBron James.
Others might have their own personal stance, but acknowledge one or two alternatives. But I believe that there's much more nuance to the question of greatness and more answers to it than you might think. So today, I'll be making the case for Wilt Chamberlain as the greatest basketball player of all time.
So I respect the way he's coming at the GOAT debate, saying, hey, there's a bunch of guys who have arguments. I just don't know how Wilt has an argument. So yeah, this should be interesting.
Wilt. The single most dominant physical force basketball's ever seen.
Already wrong. That's Shaq. Come on now.
Then I tell you about how his era-specific advantages didn't exist, and that Bill Russell had better teammates, which is why he won so many more championships than Chamberlain. That's how the Wilt Chamberlain argument always goes. If I follow that script beat for beat, I'll be making a video that's already been made 100 times. So let's write a different script. Wilt was the first basketball superstar. Coming out of high school, he had over 200 colleges vying for his commitment, a level of attention completely unheard of for a high school prospect at the time. They even introduced rules that would prevent Wilt from dunking the ball from the free throw line for his foul shots after they got wind that he was doing so in summer scrimmages. And so began the influence.
Yeah, because he couldn't shoot free throws normally. Dude shot like 42% from the line, so of course he had to try to cheat the system.
Despite the new regulations, in Chamberlain's first varsity game, he scored 52 points and grabbed 31 rebounds. Single game records for Kansas that still stand today.
Okay, come on, I thought we're talking NBA here, right? Personally, I don't value anything you do outside of the NBA when we're talking about the NBA GOAT. I'm not the type of guy that's giving Kareem credit for, winning a high school championship and winning at UCLA. I don't care. I'm an NBA guy. We're talking NBA here.
The Jayhawks fell to the Tar Heels in triple overtime despite Chamberlain's best efforts, for which he was named the tournament's most outstanding player.
Interesting how symbolic that is of his entire NBA career. Mythical player facing a team that you can't name a single player who was on that North Carolina team in 1959, and yet guess who won? Wilt probably, they said he had 50, didn't matter. I wonder why.
In 1959, Wilt joined the Philadelphia Warriors. By the time he retired in 1973 with the Los Angeles Lakers, Wilt had changed basketball more than any player before or since. Here are some of his records. Highest PER for a highest career PER. The NBA's all-time leader in rebounds. Retired as the NBA's all-time leading scorer, point per game, total defensive win share, second all-time in win share, most rebounds in a game, highest point per game average for a season, highest rebounds per game average for a season. Wilt holds more records than anyone else in basketball. If someday in the future, every tape of basketball is destroyed, and all of the media and commentary about the game is lost, leaving us with only the record books, people will come to the conclusion that Wilt Chamberlain was far and away the greatest basketball player of all time. On top of his records, Wilt won 4 MVPs, 3 of which came consecutively and 1 of which came in his rookie year. 2 championships with 1 Finals MVP award. He would have won in 1967, but the award didn't exist yet.
I just don't know how you look at this and are like, this is a GOAT caliber resume. 4 MVPs and 2 rings. That's not the GOAT. That's what blows my mind about Wilt. Even if you want to just play the numbers game and play the accolades game, I still don't think he has a GOAT case.
His career accolades are certainly impressive, and they place him deeply into the conversation as the GOAT. But the funny thing about Chamberlain's records is that each of them comes with this kind of baked-in asterisk or caveat. We as basketball fans are so obsessed with stats and scoring, but when it comes to Wilt, we overlook so much of what he did. We love it when players score, more than anything. Oh, Michael dropped 55 on the Knicks after he came back from baseball. Kobe scored 81 in a single game. But when it comes to maybe the most talented and natural scorer the game's ever seen, we look for ways to discredit him.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points per game in a season. And yet in his entire playoff career, he dropped 54 times. 50 points per game in a season. And he couldn't do it more than 4 times in, 13 years in the playoffs in his career. That's why we criticize Wilt's stats. They're all fluctuated and fake by regular season standards. I want to hear what he says, and then look, I got plenty of gas in the chamber that I can come at all this stuff with. Let's come on, Clayton, bring me something good.
He dominates the tops of the records so often that I think we've developed a sort of mental filter where we ignore his name and look at everyone else's. For so many of the players that have a case as the GOAT, I find myself having to justify the fact that they don't have the best stats of all time. But with Wilt, I find myself having to justify his stats because they're too good.
No, they're not. They're not.
Such eye-popping stats? Let's talk about what a superhuman athlete he was. While he was at Kansas, Wilt was a superb track and field athlete. He excelled at a number of short-distance sprinting events, competed in the shot put and triple jump, and won the Big 8 conference in high jump every year he attended Kansas. Had Chamberlain lived in another time, they would have built statues and temples to him.
I'm not doubting how freaky of an athlete Wilt was. We all know that. Maybe I'm doubting why he played basketball then. Bro should have just ran track and field in the Olympics.
Some of his success and records surely came from the era that he played in. Basketball was dramatically different in the 60s and early 70s when
if you guys have watched me long enough, you know I don't actually care that he played in the 60s. I value pretty much every decade for how talented it was comparatively, right? I'm a 70s hater because the talent pool in the NBA was weaker because it was split between the NBA and the ABA. I don't care that basketball players were worse in the 60s compared to now. I compare you to your era for how good your era was. I'm a big 60s guy. So no, I don't discredit Wilt at all for playing in the 60s.
Back then, the average player wasn't nearly as athletic as the average player today. Wilt was ahead of his time athletically, competed against scrawny white guys in a faster era that made stat inflation easier. If you were to take a
What's wrong with the scrawny white guy? Come on now.
27-year-old Wilt Chamberlain and put him in the league today, he'd be just another good player who kills it on the glass like Andre Drummond. No. For one, the advantages of Wilt's era help make sense of how he was able to set such unbreakable records, but it doesn't detract or excuse the
Bro, watch this. Dude, that shit's getting swatted by Wemby. Come on now.
And finally, yes, Wilt took advantage of the inefficiencies of his era. But isn't that what everyone does? Every player has era-specific advantages that they use for their benefit. What's Steph Curry supposed to say? You know what, guys? I know that the game today revolves around three-point shooting, and I'm really good at three-point shooting, but it just gives me too much of an advantage, so I just won't take as many.
No. What? Who is saying that? Nobody's saying that. The difference is Steph has won 4 championships and Wilt won 2. Wilt didn't take advantage. It wasn't that big of an advantage because he didn't win. He wasn't that good.
Of course not. Take advantage of your advantages. It's what great players do.
And Wilt didn't do
All
it.
All this stuff I'm saying might not even matter to you. You might be sitting there with your arms crossed saying, nope, Wilt Chamberlain can't be the best because he played in the past.
No.
And I didn't see him, so he can't be the best. And honestly, I get that. As sports fans, we want to see the best. It's why we watch. But just because it might be a bummer to admit that you didn't see the best doesn't mean it can't be true. So why can't a player from the past be the best? I'm sure a lot of you, though, might be willing to concede that a player from that era could be the best, but you wouldn't say it was Chamberlain. I'm sure some of you are saying it's his rival, Bill Russell. Russell won 11 championships in 13 years compared to Wilt's 2. Russell was described as the ultimate competitor and as a leader who time and time again inspired and enabled his teams to succeed. They're remembered as inverses of each other and embody contrasting ideas. Team versus individual. Defense versus offense. Me versus...
I don't know about that. Bill Russell was a pretty talented individual too. Bill Russell, yeah, he's known as a more team guy, and he was. for good reason. But like Russell had plenty of individual talent. Also, defense versus offense. Again, Russell was a good offensive player. Wilt's an all-time good defensive player. So I don't even agree with all that. And speaking of iconic moments, I gotta tell you guys about the sponsor of today's video, Topps. So Topps now are trading cards that drop the day after games, capturing the NBA's biggest moments. It's pretty sweet, and here's how it works. So when a player or team achieves something exciting during a game, Topps captures it. Then a special Topps Now card featuring that moment is designed and made available online the day after the game. From there, cards are sold exclusively on Topps.com for 48 hours, giving fans a chance to own a piece of that moment. For example, this KD card that dropped the day after he entered the top 10 on the all-time three-point shooters list. If you're a KD fan, it's a no-brainer to own this moment. And for some of the biggest moments, Topps will also produce autos and relics. And all of this is possible because of the NBA's new licensing deal with Topps. Look guys, I've been collecting cards with Topps since I was a kid, and yeah, I even bought myself some cards for Christmas. So I'm super excited to be working with them. And if you're interested in building your own collection, then try it out and grab your own Topps Now card today and use the link in my description. Now let's get back to Wilt.
They're practically myths and legends at this point. There's less footage of them than there is of other great players, and because the narrative became easy to write as their careers went along. David beat Goliath, and nobody roots for Goliath. But was the fight even fair for Goliath? For starters, Bill Russell consistently had better teammates than Wilt Chamberlain did.
I'm gonna let him finish. Completely disagree with this take, and a lot of people bring it up, completely disagree.
That's as good as a fact to me, and I will maintain it even when I make the case for Bill Russell. Wilt played with great players in his career, but Bill played with Bob Cousy, a league MVP, John Havlicek, who went on to lead the Celtics to 2 titles in the 70s, Sam Jones, a 6-time All-Star and master in the clutch, and other Hall of Famers like Tommy Heinsohn, Casey Jones, and Frank Ramsey. And of all the great players that Wilt played with, he usually caught them at the beginning or the end of their careers. Aside from notable exceptions like Jerry West and Hal Greer. Obviously, it's easier to be a better teammate when you have a better team, but I think that the most important factor that Russell benefited from, even more than his teammates, was the leadership afforded to him by his head coach, Red Auerbach. Red was one of the most forward-thinking minds.
Okay, I gotta stop. Let's talk about this teammates thing, yeah? I could go over the number of Hall of Famers they played with. I could go over the number of All-Stars they played with. The number one thing I think people miss when we're talking about comparing Wilt's teammates to Russell's is the fact that what if Russell made his teammates better? Like all of us think he did, okay? Bob Cousy didn't win an MVP until Bill Russell came to town. I mean, John Havlicek had no left hand when he was drafted to the Celtics, like until he played with Russell and became a better player. To say this, and again, to say that Wilt Chamberlain didn't play with good teammates when he played with Hal Greer, like one of the leading scorers in the NBA. He played with Paul Arizin. He played with Billy Cunningham. Then he formed arguably the greatest big three in NBA history with Elgin Baylor and Jerry West in LA. And they won 1 title in 5 years. That is a disappointment. That is a joke of a disappointment. Think about Elgin Baylor and Jerry West at the time were considered 2 of the, 7 greatest players ever. Then you add Wilt to that list. At the time, they were literally 3 of the 7 to 10 greatest players ever. They teamed up in LA, and guess what happened? They still lost to Bill Russell in 1969. They lost to the Knicks twice. They won 1 title in 5 years. But you're going to come to me and tell me that Bill Russell had better teammates because of Sam Jones? Let me pull up this video. The single biggest myth about the NBA in the 60s is this idea that Bill Russell played on loaded teams. In fact, I think people have it completely backwards. Yes. So for those of you out there who actually have a life and don't grind 60s basketball like me, yeah, on face value, Russell played with a lot of Hall of Famers. But here's my big issue. I don't think Russell's teammates were that good. I think he made them good. Think about it this way, okay? Russell missed 28 games in his career. The Celtics were 10-18 without him. All right, but his teammates were so good, right? God, give me a break. How about we go player by player? Bob Cousy was good, but he had the best season of his career the moment Russell got there. John Havlicek was the last pick in the first round in 1962 because coming out of college, he supposedly couldn't shoot and couldn't dribble with his left. Casey Jones only made the Hall of Fame because he was Russell's teammate. His career high, 22. You're counting this, Casey Jones, as a Hall of Fame teammate that Wilt Chamberlain didn't have the luxury of having, but Bill Russell did. 7 points a game, bro. Well, he's a Hall of Famer because Bill Russell made him one. Because everything about Russell's game was about winning. The defense, the keeping blocks in play, the outlet passing. Russell made his teammates better, not the other way around. Couldn't have said it better myself. Let's keep watching.
Passed through the NBA and is still on the Mount Rushmore of head coaches. Of the Celtics' 17 championships, Auerbach was a pivotal piece in 16 of them. And that's the thing that I think Wilt lacked more than anything. A coach who could lead him, tell him what to do and how to do it. Wilt was a prideful guy, and he cared about what people thought about him, which is one of the most natural and human things to care about. As he began to develop this reputation of a loser, he started scoring more points so that he could say, well, look, I scored all these points, I got all these rebounds, I did my job. And so he became known as a selfish scorer. And what did he do? He led the league in assists. What do you think people said about him then? That he was stat obsessed. And so goes the legacy of Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt needed a coach who could help him channel all of his abilities into a winning style of play. No different from guys like Kobe or Michael.
I'll give it up to Clayton. I have never heard someone go to the depths of criticizing Wilt's lack of coaching as the reason he couldn't win. That's a new one. I'll give him credit.
I'd argue that if Wilt had played for a great coach like Red Auerbach for his entire career, he would have experienced every modicum of success that Bill Russell did. I promise I didn't just pull that theory out of my ass. I'm arguing that because it happened twice. The 2 seasons that Wilt won it all, 1967 and 1972, were marked by the influence of outstanding coaches on Wilt's game. Alex Hannum coached Wilt for 3 full seasons, in 1964 on the San Francisco Warriors, and in 1967 and 8 on the Philadelphia 76ers. Hannum went to work, changing the team's approach and trying to implement strategies that would lead to winning basketball.
Boom, you just admitted that Wilt's greatest strength, his ungodly scoring ability, didn't contribute to winning basketball. How are you possibly calling this man the GOAT? He's a top 25 player ever. Imagine saying Steph's three-point shooting didn't contribute to winning basketball. Michael Jordan's ISO scoring didn't contribute to winning basketball. It's laughable.
By May of that season, this was the headline in Sports Illustrated. The article describes Chamberlain as exactly the kind of player you would hope he could be. He was scoring less, depending on and trusting his teammates, was defending at a high level consistently, and doing all of the little things that led to the team's success. By all accounts, that change was due in no small part to Hannum's influence. Unlike every coach before him, Hannum had stood up to Chamberlain, and in doing so had earned the superstar's respect. When Hannum stressed the importance of team play and defensive intensity, Wilt listened. The result was a 17-game improvement from the year prior and a trip to the NBA Finals. Wilt won 55 games with the club in his first full year there, and by the following season, Hannum had been hired to replace Dolph Schayes as head coach. Philadelphia started that season an unprecedented 46-4.
I love how we're now, 8 or 9 years into Wilt's career, and this guy has talked about what happened in the playoffs once. Nothing about how Wilt did in the playoffs. Nothing about all the years in the early 60s where he lost Game 7s to the Celtics, where he got outscored by Sam Jones in every single one of them.
By the end of the season, Wilt had averaged just 24 points a game, the lowest he'd had at that point in his career, to go along with nearly 8 assists and 24 rebounds a game. 6 players on Philadelphia had point averages in the double digits. Wilt's abilities hadn't changed, his approach had. That Philadelphia team finished the regular season with 68 wins and 14 losses, the best record the NBA had ever seen. After dispatching Oscar Robertson and the Cincinnati Royals, Wilt found himself facing a familiar foe in the Boston Celtics. But with superb teammates and an outstanding coach, Wilt led the 76ers past Boston in just 5 games. ending the Celtics' 8-year reign as champions. In the finals, Wilt defeated his old team, the San Francisco Warriors, in 6 games to claim his first championship and cap off the most outstanding professional campaign the NBA had ever seen. He then demanded a trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. With
part of my anti-Wilt argument, by the way, and why I hate him so much, the dude was just an asshole. Like, you're just, again, glossing over the fact that he demanded a trade in an era where you just don't do that. And he demanded a trade. This is way worse than what KD did. He demanded a trade to a team, oh my God, with Jerry West and Elgin Baylor.
With the Lakers, Wilt was saddled with coaches Butch Van Breda Kolff and Joe Mulaney.
Is coaching his entire argument?
Bill Sharman, a hard-nosed, no-nonsense coach, took over in 1972. Jerry West said of Sharman, he told us he thought that if we played the way he wanted us to, that we could beat anybody.
So it's 3 years into his time with the Lakers, they finally win a championship because the head coach told them, if you believe it, you can do anything.
So there you go. That's my case. Wilt was a victim of pressure and a lack of consistent quality coaching.
I'm sorry, that's it? That's the case for Wilt Chamberlain? That he was the greatest player to ever play this sport, but was held back by coaching? Do I need to rewatch this entire video? Maybe I missed something. Maybe I really fell asleep during this video. That's insane. That's the whole thing? That's the whole thing.
One last quote from Chuck Klosterman. Russell possessed intangible greatness, which means sport writers can make him into whatever metaphor they desire. Russell was the central figure for a superior franchise, so history suggests he was the greater, more meaningful force. His wins validate everything. If you side with Chamberlain, it seems like you're siding with the absurdity of numbers. But consider this question. In an alternative universe and with a different attitude, could Chamberlain have been Russell? Probably. Could Russell have ever been Wilt? Never. No chance. Chamberlain is the only human who could have ever been Chamberlain.
I'm sorry, that was horrible. That was a horrible video. Clayton, I'm sure you're a great creator. I know this whole series has performed really well. I haven't seen the other videos either. Maybe I need to react to those next. That was horrible. His entire argument is that Wilt is the greatest player ever in a history of what ifs. And the what if is, what if he had a good coach? I don't know. I don't know what the case for Wilt Chamberlain is. I don't have an argument for why Wilt's the GOAT because I don't even think it's close. Here, I'll leave it at this. My argument is that he never won because his style of play never translated to winning. It's no different than what we've seen from like a James Harden in today's NBA. Heliocentric offense, except back then it was in the post. He averaged 50 in a season. He had it 4 times in the playoffs. His scoring and his true shooting percentage went down in the playoffs every single year of his career. He built a super team in LA and it still underperformed. You have to separate empty stats from everything else. Okay, Wilt was a freak of a human, and he's a top 25 player ever. He was really good. Again, I'm not saying Wilt sucked. This is not a case for him to be the GOAT. This is a case for why he's underrated. And I think there's a big difference there. And I'll leave my argument at that. Appreciate you guys watching. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. See you guys next time.